After her daughter, Selah Marley, was seen sporting White Lives Matter merchandise, many were curious about what her mother, pro-black artist Lauryn Hill, had been up to since disappearing from the music scene years prior. This makes sense considering that back in 1996, it seemed like overnight the entire nation had been infatuated with Lauryn Hill's voice. That, coupled with her lyrical abilities, quickly hurled her into fame at a young age. As a result, we got to witness her go through all the things associated with growing up. Specifically, we got to observe her experience the complex emotions and situations that come with mature relationships. When she first appeared on the music scene, it was at 13 on the American variety show Showtime at the Apollo. The Showtime at the Apollo was Lauryn's first glimpse into what the music industry is like, as the crowd booed her while she struggled to overcome her nervousness. However, even then she persevered and continued singing, which in turn made the crowd also believe in her ability to keep singing, foreshadowing what her future career would look like. In high school, Lauryn met two Haitian men by the name of Pras Michel and Wyclef Jean, and together they founded a Haitian rap group they called the Translator Crew in 1987. Eventually, they would change their name to the Fugees, taken from the word refugees, a word often used in a negative connotation to refer to Haitian Americans. In 1994, the group released their debut album, Blunted on Reality. This album, despite its complex take on the sounds of new age hip-hop, was a commercial flop. However, it was not because the album itself was not good, quite the contrary, but it was because the album was marketed as traditionally hip-hop, which it obviously was not. Though during this time, the early 90s, alternative hip-hop was not particularly popular and would not become a popular genre until the mid-90s with artists like Outkast. Therefore, their first album was bound to do poorly, and boy it did. In fact, their label was allegedly only able to sell around 12 copies of Blunted on Reality. The extreme failure of their first album would have dismayed any other artist from continuing to pursue a career in hip-hop, but not the Fugees. After the failure of their first album, the Fugees regrouped and remastered their sound. Once they headed back to the drawing board, they figured out what they needed to do with their second album, which was to commit fully by combining their different musical talents. Lauryn's lyrical genius, Wyclef's storytelling ability, and Pras's creative thinking. Their second album, The Score, saw immense success because of this. Although the Fugees were outside of the box with their artistry, by this time it moved away from the popularized tough guy persona that was synonymous with hip-hop during that time and allowed their personalities to shine through their album, which quickly went platinum. The member who was mainly recognized for their talents was Lauryn Hill. She was revered for her beautiful voice and her lyrical flow, thus many fans started to encourage her to do solo projects. Although it was obvious that Lauryn was dedicated to the Fugees, one member having overpowering success is bound to cause contingency within a band. However, when the group talks about the success of the album, they admit that although Lauryn's popularity did cause issues when recording their second album, she was recording for the movie Sister Act 2 during this time. It was not the cause of the relationship between the members being juxtaposed to the many relaxed sounds featured in their tracks. It was feelings of jealousy and betrayal brewing between Lauryn Hill and Wyclef that would ultimately lead to the group's disbandment. Young and passionate, it would make sense that a romance would form between two budding artists. Lauryn and Wyclef spent a lot of time together sharing intimate thoughts and turning it into a gift that they thought that they would share with the world. So, in truth, no one was particularly surprised when Wyclef had told the world about their secret relationship. However, many would be disappointed in them both because Wyclef had been married since the release of their debut album in 1994. And Pras had specifically told Wyclef not to get romantically involved with Lauryn for the sake of their group. Things had finally come to a head during the production of the Fugees' single Ready or Not. Lauryn had gone to Pras to tell him that she no longer wished to be a part of the Fugees. According to Pras, when she rang him up, he could tell that she was in some sort of emotional distress. Over the phone, she promised to sing the hook, but she needed Pras to make sure that Wyclef would not be around when she came to record the reference. However, as soon as she had started singing, she started crying and was no longer able to do as she promised and ended up running out of the studio. However, her departure was brief and she and Wyclef would get right back together during their promotional tours for their album, The Score. There were also rumors that Lauryn had been dating the son of Bob Marley, Rohan Marley. Therefore, when Lauryn fell pregnant in 1997, Wyclef would become extremely jealous of her relationship with Rohan, as he was the other potential father to her son. This became a catalyst to their already problematic relationship. But what ultimately led to the end of their secret affair was Wyclef claiming that Lauryn allowed him to believe that he was the father of her newborn son, Zion. Wyclef would then go on to harshly criticize Lauryn in interviews for her supposed deception of him during their relationship. However, he was still married. Neither party was innocent in their affair, but they both had relationships outside of the one they were keeping secret, so there was no room for either of them to call into question the loyalty of the other. Despite Wyclef's obvious distaste for Lauryn, she still wanted to work with him and Pras for her solo album. After some clamoring, Lauryn had been able to convince Wyclef to work with her, but this would quickly end when Wyclef had yet again gone to the press to brag about being the executive producer on Lauryn's album. This was enough for Lauryn to realize that she needed to cut ties with Wyclef. Although she obviously loved him because no matter what, she had gone back to him. Their love was not a love that was healthy for her. To him, she was a person that he could keep around, but did not want to truly commit to. And she opened up about this in her solo debut album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, specifically in the song X Factor. After being scorned by Wyclef's nonchalant approach to their relationship for the last time, Lauryn had to say a final goodbye to the love they had once shared. Lauryn opens up about many of her fears, her naive view of romance, her one-sided love, things she learned, and finally letting go of her past mistakes. The first half of her album, she's angry, hurt, and scared, and as the tracks continue, we get to hear as Lauryn goes through all the stages of a breakup to finally find acceptance. The album begins with the track The Lost Ones. In this song, she blatantly confronts Wyclef, accusing him of changing once the group had gained notoriety, and, in the process of gaining fame, he lost Lauryn. Following this track comes one of her most popular songs, X Factor, where she admits that she can no longer stay in love with Wyclef, but no matter how much he hurts her, she cannot let go on her own. Following the X Factor is To Zion. In To Zion, Lauryn sings about a different kind of love that she is experiencing for her son, Zion. During such a hard time in her life, he was the only source of her joy. And as she belts out his name in love, we can tell that her love for him was the only thing keeping her sane. In Doo-Wop, That Thing, Lauryn continues talking about her perspective on love. However, this time she's warning others that if they do not practice self-love, looking for love from others will only get them hurt. In the next track, Lauryn reflects on her relationship with God from the lenses of Christianity and Superstar. She repeatedly talks about how she felt as if we as a society were not operating in a way that would bring us any closer to the higher powers that be. She continues these thoughts in the next track, Final Hour. As a Christian woman, Lauryn realized that she had her mind set on the wrong things. When the final hour or judgment day comes to pass, none of the false power, the superficial love, or wealth will matter before God. Therefore, she must remind herself not to get caught up in worldly dealings. Lauryn circles back to the top of love in her 8th track, When It Hurts So Bad. In this song, she is mourning over the love she wanted so badly. However, in doing this, she had to admit that the love she wanted truly was not love because it was not reciprocated, which just made it an infatuation. In I Used to Love Him, she fully admits that she was addicted to the intoxicated feeling Wyclef would give her. She then realizes that the sacrifices that she made to keep him did not compare to the lukewarm love she received. Then in Forgive Them, Father, she looks inside her heart and finds herself asking God to forgive Wyclef for the way he carelessly handled her heart. Succeeding Forgive Them, Father is Every Ghetto, Every City. This song is an ode to herself and how far she has come because despite the adversity she faced, she kept singing. In her 12th track, Nothing Even Matters, Lauryn forgives herself for loving Wyclef while allowing him to treat her poorly. Forgiving him helped her come to the realization that she could not change the fact that she loved him for who he was, even the parts of him that made her hurt. In doing so, she was able to begin to move on in her life, which she talks about in the next track, Everything is Everything. In this song, she is trying to look for the positive aspects of her heartbreak. Mainly, she looks forward to the newfound love and admiration she has gained for herself. Her final track of the album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, Lauryn talks about how from the moment she realized she could no longer allow herself to be put on the back burner of love to please someone else, that she must love herself enough to put her needs forward. Loving Wyclef taught her that she needed to love herself more. In their love affair, Lauryn Hill and Wyclef experienced a love so wild and fevering that they both got burned. Meanwhile, both parties found themselves blaming the other for the failure of their relationship, when in truth, the love that they sought for in one another was never bound to end well if neither one of them was willing to be mature enough to either be together or leave each other alone. Although without Lauryn's complex relation with love, we would not have been given the beautiful music that she was able to give us because of her heartbreak.